Simply put, I do not love the LaMelo Ball trade, specifically for the Charlotte Hornets, but I'm going to elaborate on why I don't really like it for either side. But let's start with the Charlotte Hornets. Last season was probably the most successful season, definitely of this decade, but probably in the last 15 years for this franchise. I know they made the playoffs in 2016. Nothing has even scratched the surface to that success. This was the most successful season they had, and their young core of LaMelo Ball, Con Knipple, and Brandon Miller played amazing and were at full power for half of the season. You only gave this trio half of a season before you're calling it a quits. You're moving on from your 24-year-old all-star guard who does have his pros and cons. We're not going to sit here and ignore the fact that he hasn't played more than 50 games but once in the last 4 seasons, that his inefficiency, his shot chucking, we're not going to ignore those. But we cannot mention those without mentioning he is the straw that stirs the drink for the Charlotte Hornets. Without LaMelo Ball's playmaking, this team doesn't win any games. If you think they're bad now, watch Kobe White try to fill that role. I love Kobe White. It is to my understanding they are going to give him an extension, a friendlier extension from what LaMelo Ball wants or is remaining on his contract. His playmaking skill is not LaMelo Ball's. And if they try to plug and put and run that same system back, it is going to be a rude awakening in Charlotte. But you send out your 24-year-old all-star guard basically on a, hey, prove us wrong. Like, they gave up on LaMelo Ball because what they get in return is Naz Reid, 1 first-round pick. Those pick swaps are worth almost nothing because they take place after next year where Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves will expectedly still be good. So there's no reason in using those swaps. And then you have 3 second-round picks, which, yeah, I guess it's like the cherry on top. Doesn't really sweeten the deal by any means, but I don't understand why Charlotte calls it quits after just half a season of this experiment, other than they don't have faith in LaMelo Ball. They want LaMelo Ball to go to the Minnesota Timberwolves, continue to get injured, and basically have everyone look back at this trade and say, wow, the Charlotte Hornets are fortune tellers. And then for the Minnesota Timberwolves, you're bringing in a guy to play alongside your ball-dominant guard. Granted, you have needed a floor general, you have needed a facilitator down the stretch in the half-court settings for multiple seasons now. Mike Conley was that guy. He has gotten older, he has slowed down, he has fallen out of the rotation. You thought you had the solution with Dante DiVincenzo, and as good as he is, he's A, out for the entirety of next season with an Achilles injury. He's B, not really a point guard. You try to fill the role with Ayo Dosunmu. He's better as a wing, off ball, maybe not as your best playmaker. So you do finally bring in a guard, and that is the huge pro for Minnesota Timberwolves with this trade. The con is how much money they're spending on this duo, how close they are to the second apron, the absolute lack of front court depth that they have now. Does Rudy Gobert continue to age gracefully, or does he drop off? How do you fill up this team with impact players with such a minimal salary space available? There's just so many pros and cons on both sides of this trade, which that happens with any trade in NBA history, but I feel like they're more prominent with this trade. And I have seen some people say, well, this is just the Mikal Bridges trade. This is the Minnesota Timberwolves trying to maximize their contending window with Anthony Edwards. This is the piece they were missing, like Mikal Bridges was the piece the New York Knicks were missing. But the Nets got so many valuable draft picks in that trade that it would have been insane to not make that deal. The Charlotte Hornets aren't getting that in return. And I do think at the end of the day, that is what this is them trying to maximize the contending window in Minnesota, trying to make Anthony Edwards happy, because I have stated multiple times in numerous videos that Anthony Edwards is going to ask out of Minnesota. That's not an if, that is a win, because they traded away his best running partner in Karl Anthony Towns, who just went on to win an NBA championship with the New York Knicks and was getting finals MVP nods. They traded away the best thing they had in Minnesota to stay under the second apron for Julius Randle. That didn't work out. And now they have essentially flipped Julius Randle and Naz Reid, someone they promoted as, hey, we don't need Karl Anthony Towns. Naz Reid is young. He's cheaper. We're going to let him develop. We're going to contend with him. Both him and Julius Randle are now gone, and you bring in LaMelo Ball. Someone who, as much as I want them to be able to play off of each other, as much fun as they could be as a duo in the backcourt, we don't know if they're going to play off of each other. We don't know if they're going to mesh well. We don't know how their play styles will conflict. There are just so many more prominent questions in this trade than I feel like there has been in any recent superstar trades. That could also be recency bias speaking very strongly. This is the first or the second blockbuster trade of the summer. Of course, Giannis being the first one. I feel like these questions are too prominent for me to say either team wins this trade. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I don't understand why both of these teams made these trades. I'm not going to pretend I'm at a loss for words on why this happened. Am I shocked that it happened so quickly? LaMelo Ball was on the trade block for 5 minutes. I'm shocked at how quickly it happened. But I'm not really shocked that it happened, in hindsight at least. That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for tuning in. Subscribe if you're new. I'll catch you in the next one.